Hi, hello, it's me again, Marina. I'm 59 and I live in Sweden. I have been thinking for a long time of doing a video. I don't know what to call it, but my makeup through the decades, kind of. I have been around for a while. um, and I wanted to show you when I started and how I looked and what I did and what stuff I used and things like that, at least when it comes to eyeshadows and eye makeup. So I've been thinking about this for a long time, but haven't gotten around to it yet because um, it takes a lot of time for me to plan it, and I needed to go through all of my photo albums, which are a lot, and they were in a drawer way back in our cellar, so I had to dig them out and go through them to see how I looked, during the 80s, basically. It started, not quite, but and then 90s and the 2000s and all of that. So it took me a while, and I'll see if I manage, because I'm not I'm not the best at editing, but I will try to cut in pictures of me through the years. Yeah, so it started for me. I have always been interested in makeup. And I grew up in a really small place, a small village in the northern part of Sweden. For those of you who are from Sweden, it was Funäsdalen in Härjedalen. And I grew up there and I went to school there. And there were nowhere to buy makeup at all, not even a mascara. I don't think you could buy that. I don't know where my mom got her stuff from. Maybe, you had these catalogs when you can order clothes and shoes and stuff, and maybe she got it from there. I don't know. Because there was two small grocery stores, Ica and Konsum, and that was it. And they didn't sell stuff like that. They had soaps and shower gels and stuff like that, but not makeup at all, as far as I know. Anywho, when I was 12, in Sweden that means you're in the 6th grade of, do you say primary school? You're into your 6th year in school. And I started to sneaking, wearing mascara, hoping that my mom wouldn't notice. So I tried to put on as little as I could. I have my mascara. I do not remember what mascara it was or where I got it from or anything like that. So I did like this. And I think even this is too much. Don't know if I put it on my lower lashes. Maybe it was only on the upper lashes. I don't know. So this was me. Well, back then, you're young, your skin is fresh, and you look fine. And when I looked back at my picture, I also think that I had a lot more colors on my eyebrows back then. Not a lot, of course, I never had that, but more than I have now, because now they're basically, the color is non-existing, even though I have brows, but they don't show up. And maybe that is because my hair is getting gray, and of course then also my brows will get brighter, of course. And I think overall I had a bit more color in my face than I have now. I'm getting old and gray. So this is what I was trying to do and hide it from her. I'm sure she noticed, but she didn't say anything. I'm sure she didn't mind. So then a few years later, when I had been in school for a couple more years, and I don't know what you call it in English, högstadiet, the last 3 years in primary school, when you're like between 13, 14 till 16 something. I had then I started to, sorry, I made a blob there, use mascara enough to make it show, and like this. So now we're talking when I was 12. It was back in 1976. I forgot to tell you about the years. This is my mascara, starting to wear mascara was somewhere around 1976. I'll just do this quickly. Yeah, so when I got a few years older, then everybody was wearing mascara and kajal, and mine was a bit metallic blue, but I have one here, but I think this is, maybe it's dried up, I don't know, it's old. And I actually have a picture of me wearing this. I didn't look like this then. But this was the look I had for years throughout my, the 3 last years in primary school. I also had it in high school, or whatever you call it. No, high school. We call it gymnasium. Yeah, something like this. It was more, it did show up more on me than it does now, because I think this pen is, I can take my black one. I'll take my black one, but I didn't use black back then. Later on, maybe. Something like this. And this is what I looked like for years. No brows, no blush, no nothing. Mascara and a kajal. Through my last years in school and the beginning of high school, and in high school I came in contact with something called Oriflame. I don't know how many of you know about that. You bought stuff from them, and then you were supposed to sell them in like these home parties. Knock on the door, it's someone's place, and they would have been invited their friends, and you should sell makeup to them. I was too shy for that, so I bought everything myself. So there's basically my first eyeshadows came from there. And so I think I looked something like this. Oh, hang on, I have some eyeshadows here. Yeah. Though this is a single eyeshadow from makeup store called Myth, and I depotted it. No color, but I think I had something like this, and I can't even remember owning any brushes or anything. So maybe this is what I did. And I also know that after a while I ventured out in wearing blue eyeshadows. This doesn't even show up on my skin, but yeah, I know I had like a very light sand beige eyeshadow, a satin one, because shimmers weren't what we call shimmers today. They were really satins. So eventually in high school I used to wear blue eyeshadow. Of course, it was the 70s, early 80s. By then it was early 80s when I was in high school. I don't don't even remember having, I don't know what I applied my eyeshadows on. This is Wave from Makeup Store. And I don't know, I think I dragged it out like this. But then I think I stopped using, because I remember I was really light blue. And I'm also wearing a white. I don't have a white right here, or do I? But I will take an even more light blue. This one, called Bubble, from Makeup Store as well, Swedish brand. Didn't exist back then. I can't quite remember the way I applied my eyeshadows, but this is the colors anyhow. A bit sloppy, just wanted to show you. And I think this blue was a bit more intense. This is fun. Memory lane. Still no brows. So, guess this was it for a while. So, and of course I didn't do this every day. I was in high school, I went to school every morning. I didn't have the time to do my makeup, as now I make myself have the time. But back then I lived together with my friend. We rented a room because high school was like 2 hours away from where we lived. So we had to stay away all week and only get home on weekends. Yeah, so I guess for school it was only mascara and a kajal. Yeah. And then high school was over and I actually moved to Stockholm. I stayed for like 6 months in the place where high school, in the small, you can't even call it a town, big village or small town in Sveg. So I stayed there for like 7 or 8 months after I got out high school, and then I got a job and moved to Stockholm. And that was like heaven because they had stuff there. And then I will have to wash this off, so I will come back to you and continue. Hang on. Yeah, so I moved to Stockholm in February 1983, and then I was 19. I have turned 19 in January, and it was my first job ever that I got there. So I moved from this small little place in the northern part of Sweden to big Stockholm. That was an adventure. And it was so every Saturday I took the tube into the city and browsed around in the shops and the makeup counters, and I was in heaven. Back then there was no such thing as indie brands. Internet wasn't even invented, and you didn't have a phone, anything like that. And the makeup counters, when I look back at it, was boring compared to now. There were either luxurious brand, you know, like Yves Saint Laurent, Gucci, stuff like that, or it was Maybelline or L'Oreal, or we had a brand called Pierre Robert, I think it's Swedish, and they just don't exist anymore, and you know, stuff like that, boring stuff. But I was in heaven because they had stuff that I haven't had a chance to get hold of, eyeshadows and stuff, even though it was you know, mostly brown stuff and very discreet stuff. Anyhow, so still I didn't do my brows, but I think I will try to look at the pictures and I will put them up here if I can find one. I think I did something like this because it looks like I have something around my eyes and it looks like it's blue. So I'll take this is Rec from Makeup Store, and I just had, you know, like this a little bit. I think I had a bit in the outer corner. And primer wasn't even heard of. I didn't know anything called primer, eye primer. I don't think it was invented. At least not in Sweden. So you just put your shadow on your skin. I didn't use foundation, nothing. And then a couple of years went by and I was actually in town, Stockholm, browsing around, and there was a guy calling me in from the counter at Yves Saint Laurent, and he complimented me on my eyeshadows that I had put on or whatever I had on, my makeup, and said, "You look great, but there's something missing. The painting needs a frame." So he took an eye pen, and I don't have an eye pen for my brows because I don't use that. But I can take this. This is an old one that I never use. It's from Viva La Diva, also a Swedish brand, cheap brand. This is just, I have it in case something happens to my dip brow and I can't use anything else. You can always use a shadow, so that's fine. And he just painted on my brows with an eye pen that, if I remember it correctly, it was like a grayish, brown grayish one. Where's my eye? There. And then of course he made me buy that expensive eye pen from Yves Saint Laurent. I was in my early 20s and I couldn't afford that, but I did it anyway. And now when I look back at my brows, they were horrendous, awful, and I don't think he filled them in as much as I do now because I can't stop myself. But for the first time I saw the difference. I know I had been so envious of people having colors on their brows because I could see that it looked so much better, but it never occurred to me that I can do something about it. Why? Yeah, okay, I will just do it a bit sloppy right now. They weren't this dark back then. They were much more brighter. Okay, so now I actually looked like I had a face. I remember coming home after that day and immediately went to the bathroom doing makeup, because I was so inspired and a bit happy that a person behind that counter, it was a guy, had told me that I had great makeup and that he had taught me that I actually need to do something about my brows. Okay, so now it started to look like I actually have a face. So this look went on for quite some years. I branched out to some more eyeshadows, but they were never really, that powerful colors that I use now. They were discreet shadows like this. I could put on something more, a bit more eventually. But yeah, something like this. And I guess I used lip gloss or something. Lipsticks, not so much. And then it must have been, this went on for like 10-15 years. Yeah, we're talking early, mid, yeah, and then you started to use, for a while you had this blue mascara and blue white on your waterline. Okay, I don't have my white eye pen, I'll just take this one. I never do this anymore. I see people do it, but I just can't. It gives me the 80s vibes. Been there, don't want to go back. Done that. Yeah, so don't want to do this again. After a while, and then we're talking, actually the whole 90s was basically like this as well. I started to use a little bit more eyeshadow, and then I started to annoy myself that it looks so ugly, because you can see this when you put an eyeshadow on, you can see the skin, the tight lining stuff you do. I didn't know that tight lining was something that was even a thing, that there was a word for it. I had no clue, and I don't think it was back then. But I just took an eye pen, and the same thing that I do today, and fill the gaps in. So, because in the 90s, that's when I met my ex, but my then future husband, in 95, and we had our 3 children from 97 to 2001. So during that time it was basically this look, a bit more shadow, but not a lot. So then after that, I don't know what happened, but I started to get I know what happened. In 2003 I started to work in a clothing shop, and then I discovered Makeup Store. It's the brand of these shadows. I don't have the original, I have depotted them, so this is not the original packaging, but that is the first store that ever in Sweden came out with something that was really fun. They had a lot of colorful eyeshadows, a lot of glitter eyeliners, loose glitters, pretty blushes, foundations, you name it. Things started to happen in the makeup part in Sweden, but they were the only ones, as far as I know, and things, and when it comes to stuff that I liked, because by then I discovered I liked color. I wanted to have color, and you couldn't get hold of it here, and still you didn't buy things. I think we got our first computer in our home like in 97, so even then ordering stuff from abroad it didn't even occur to me to do that. But I started to use a bit more shadows, more colorful shadows. But I had this thing that you can mix shimmers and mattes. Excuse me, there's something scraping. Sorry. You can use mattes and shimmers. You know, you think about that for a while. So I only did shimmery looks or matte looks. I never mixed them. So it could be, now we will see, what do I have on? It could be something like, let's take this. Here's the green part. Still makeup store, because that was what I used back then. Oh no, it broke. Never mind. So it could be something like this. What will I use? I'll just grab something. This is a green shimmery one called, or it's more like a satin. They were always satins. City Jungle from Makeup Store. Still no base. Oh my gosh. So when I look at the pictures, all my makeup looks were pure shimmers, because I like them the most. I still do. Well, you need your mattes, and mattes are great, but I love shimmery eyeshadows, the way shimmers are now. And I pretty much placed the shadows as I always do, but I'm better at it now than I was back then. And then we'll take a shimmery dark green. This is the one that broke. Zone, it's called. It was already cracked and it's really old. And you just place it on top of what I already have. Well, shimmer, it looks almost matte, but it's not. Why do you think that you can't mix mattes and shimmers? I don't know what I got that from. And I still don't think I use a lot of foundation and stuff. And then I will take a green shimmer called, oh, it's stuck, Voodoo Fever. Using the same brush for everything. So shimmer, shimmer, shimmer. And back then I didn't pull it up as much as I do now. So when I look at myself in pictures and I relax, you couldn't even see that I had shadows here, because they just disappeared. So this is an all shimmery look. The darkest green is not that very shimmery, but I have only shimmers on. And it looks terrible. And I can also, I'll see if I find a white shimmer. That was the thing. A really shimmery one, because you needed a highlighter on your brow bone. And I have learned that it should be bright. So I did like this. Completely white and shimmery, and I did put it on a big chunk of my brow bone. Yeah, how about that? Really shimmery. Did I say satin from Makeup Store? Yeah, and then I just had mascara and my kajal, and I used a lot of, by then I used well, then when I've gotten this far, I used blush and stuff. Hang on. Face wipes wasn't even a thing back then either, at least not for me. I dropped it. That's awful. So I still can't remember using foundation, but I guess at some point I must have started with that, but I don't know when. So I'll just take Swedish brand, old brand, that I guess existed back then as well. Straight on my face. So it could be either this or matte shadows. These almost look matte. No, not quite when I look up close, because they are satins. And also by Makeup Store. This is a sheer one. This is something I never do. Put the lipstick straight on my lips. I hate that, because you can never get it straight, a straight sharp line. Use a brush. I don't think I did an eyeliner because I didn't know how to, actually. And I have learned to do this thing, or I thought I was doing something that no one else did, because I hated the big, you can see the skin shining through your lashes, and I thought that looked so ugly on me, because my lids are very upwards like this, you know, the lid end, or what could I say? So I was trying to hide that, not knowing that it was tight lining I was doing. Yeah, so this is my early 2000s, I guess. No, the shimmer part was, yeah, but yeah, it was early 2000s and late 90s. Terrible. So I will go and wash this off. Be back. Yeah, so I'm back. I have started to prepare my face for a me look as it is right now. Yeah, so now I've forgotten where I was. Anywho, early 2000, when makeup store came, it really opened my eyes to what I like and how I want my makeup to be. And it was also a time where I started to work in store for the first time in my life. I had been a secretary on accountant agency and stuff like that for years, but then I got, during my pregnancy leave, maternity leave, I got a notice of, what do you say, they didn't want me to come back because there was a shortage of work for me to do, so they didn't have a work for me to come back to. And then I found this job in a clothing store that I loved. I loved working there. It was a private little store, and there was only me and the boss and a couple of more girls, and we had a blast working there. And that was the boss. She was like 10 years younger than me, but anywho, she liked clothes as me. She liked makeup, and we went to makeup store, and makeup store had these classes you could take for an hour to learn how to put on makeup, and we did stuff like that. And by then I also found a brand called Viva La Diva, Swedish brand, had a lot of color, maybe not the best quality, but still okay for the money, still have their shadows. I should try them one day, but by now they are freakishly old, but yeah, I still have them. And we also could buy Too Faced, the old packaging, the old Too Faced, which I in some way liked better than the way they are now. So I have a couple of these still, and I remember having a turquoise glitter eyeliner that I loved. I used it up and then they disappeared. Well, now you can buy Too Faced at Sephora in Sweden, but I don't have a Sephora close to me, so. And you actually can also buy Urban Decay at Kicks, Swedish brand store. That's something in this country, I can tell you. Yeah, so in 2007, when I started to work in that clothing store, and then a few years later in 2007, I attended MUA education at a place called Makeup Studio, the Makeup Studio. So I went there for 10 weeks every day and became a professional makeup artist. Now I have never worked as a makeup artist, and I don't consider myself professional at all. It's just a name on a paper. But I loved those 10 weeks. They were the best 10 weeks I've had in a long, long time. I had so much fun and I learned a lot. And by then, I actually learned that when they give you rules and they give you regulations and they say you don't do this and don't do that, and if you see you should do so and so on and so on. And then I figure out that what the fuck, I'm gonna do the way I like it. So I have always done that. But that kind of kicked off my true love for color, and that I want everything to be intense, and I don't like this brown shit that everybody likes in this country. You cannot ever see anyone use anything else but brown, except for me. And if you do, I get shocked. It's so boring. And I guess that's also why we don't have stuff to buy that is that colorful and bright, and because people don't buy it, so it doesn't sell here. Yeah, so those in 2007, late October, I graduated from that with my diploma, and I loved it. And after that, it's just been, because by then internet was bigger, you started to realize that I could order stuff online, and I started to find stuff that I didn't know existed before. So after that, things just exploded, I think. Yeah, so I was thinking I will do a look. I will put this back. the way I do it now, and that you have already seen. I actually have a whole bunch of new palettes, and they were gifted to me by Steph, Not Your Basic Steph. Thank you so much, Steph. I love every single thing you sent me. And also her daughter Kira sent me 2 palettes, and that was so sweet of her. Thank you, Kira. I love you, and I love you both. So I will use one of them. I used one of the palettes from Kira yesterday, and she sent me this one, Steph, the Be Perfect Rain palette. It's a collab with someone called Alina. Don't know who that is, and I don't know how old this palette are, but it doesn't matter. I love it. So it looks like this. Oops, I'm always trying to knock my mirror over with pressed glitter and all that I love. So I will just do something quick just because I want to try this palette. Yeah, so my makeup journey has been long and winding. And actually it was really fun to go through all those photos because, well, first of all, it was really a trip down memory lane because I discovered that I've done things that I didn't even remember, parties and stuff you did that I have on pictures, but I've forgotten about them. So what color to use? These look like they are untouched. I think she said she used it once. Oh, and there's a color called Kajal. That was funny. Wow, there's a lot to choose from, and I am blank. I think I will do a color story that isn't really that I usually go for. So, to be honest, talking about browns, and Swedes only like browns, that was what I started with as well. I had a brown shadow that I liked because it was this type of grayish brown, but stuff happened. I'm going in with the Feast, that one. I don't think I will hold this up because it's a bit wonky. Yeah, so I'm really happy where I am now with my makeup, and that I have found so much stuff. And oh, I love this color. The development has been great, you could say. This will be a long video, so there's been a big change, and I think that's, well, you could thank the internet for that, I guess. And stuff you can get hold of. Yeah, when I, at the same time as I started I have a blog. No one has that anymore, but to me it's just kind of a notebook. I put up my pictures every day. I write down what I have used and a few words what I've done during the day, maybe. And no one reads it, but it's there for me to go back to, like trip down memory lane. It's back since it started in 2008. And yeah. So if I want to find pictures and I want to see what I did back then, I can go back there and have a look. And also if Instagram decides to be stupid and kick me out, I can always go back to my pictures on my blog. And there's where I can see a big development in myself. Your progress, you can see that you're getting better. It was awful in the beginning, terrible, even after I went to makeup school, because you change and you get new stuff and you learn stuff and you learn techniques and stuff like that. So back then it was horrible the way I looked, also the way, but I guess that's me being critical to myself. You know, I always colored my hair black. I looked terrible, and I had that for years. Oh, and my brows were really black once I started to put them on. Oh, ooh, I love this color combination. It was terrible, but it's fun to see, and it's fun to go back and see the change. You can really see the change if you follow the pictures. Yeah. So it's been fun. You know, when pictures from the kids when they were really, really small. And one thing I realized when I saw the pictures from the 80s and 90s until I got my children, that I was always really well dressed, and I have never thought about myself as a well-dressed person. You know, the 80s, I had these jackets with big shoulder pads and dresses and yeah. These shadows are really, really great. And it seems like it was party all the time. And I don't remember myself being a party person. I have never been that, according to me, but obviously the pictures are not lying, are they? I was living together with a guy for like 4 years in my early 30s, and he had a big social life. He knew a lot of people, and we were always seeing people, invited to dinners. They came to our house, and it was at the time of year when everybody was starting to get married. So I think we went to like 3 or 4 weddings every summer for as long as we were together. So you have this what do you call that, when you surprise the bride and dress her up in ugly clothes and bring her out to town and embarrassing her for all, make her do stuff. I don't know. And the guys do the same thing for the groom. That was basically every weekend for years. Yeah. This turned out to be a red look. I didn't see that coming. Okay, so what? There is a few shimmers, but they are pretty dark. maybe that one, called Thai. And cutting the grease. Yeah, and I also realized that I've done a lot of stuff with the work that I had back then. I worked for like more than 10 years in an accountant agency as a secretary, and some of you might have heard of, at least back then it was called Price Waterhouse. And we did a lot of stuff, parties, and we went for what do you say? Oh my, I lost the words. Running, jogging, competition, what do you call it? A race, I don't know, as a team, the ward where I was working, and just for fun. And we celebrated afterwards, partying, stuff like that. We never do that anymore. Whenever something happens at work, I don't feel like coming anymore. I just completely, I guess it's the age. We're talking late 80s, early 90s. I was young and you liked to do stuff. Now I'm just tired. Okay, took me a while. I also forgot to put on my brow bone color. I'm tired. I've been up since 7:15 this morning, and that's against my principles to get up that early when you're off. I'm on vacation still, even though it's only 3 days left. Oh, but I had an appointment at my dentist this morning, so I had to go up, and now I'm starting to feel my ears is burning and my cheeks is burning because I'm tired. And because I had some wine. I love this. Under my eyes, what should I go with? Just continue with the same. I guess so. I'm too tired to figure something out, and I just wanted to try this palette. No fallout whatsoever, I just had some specks of that shimmer. This is a bit different kind of shimmer than the one I used from Makeup Store. I'm actually thinking of maybe I should just throw all of them away, but I have a lot. And I remember when I decluttered them a couple of years ago, it took me like 2 days straight. No, not declutter. I always use the wrong word. Depot. because back then they were really the shit. I loved them and they were really great, and they were at the time, but now I have so much stuff that it's so much better, but they are really nostalgic to me. They kind of opened my eyes. So I can kind of, it was difficult even to depot them, because I wanted the packaging still to be there, but they were taking up so much space. So I was thinking long and hard, and maybe for a couple of years before I did the depotting. But I never use them, and I don't think they are as good anymore as I thought back then. Yeah. Same old Flex foundation stick. Almost empty. I won't give up until it's completely empty. When did I start to use foundation? I was thinking about that, but maybe, I think, beginning of 2000s, maybe. Something like that. Not even, I don't think I even bought some from Makeup Store even. I have not one now, but back then I don't think I had. But you never know, because I realized going through all those photos that you remember stuff wrong. And then you see stuff and I was like, oh, was that then? Oh, I didn't remember that, and oh, did I do that? This one. Powder. I love this powder. Haven't had it for that long. Now I need to change my t-shirt again. I feel there is something missing in my, well, of course I need to do an eyeliner. I'll just do a black one and some, should I have some glitter? No, that was a red glitter. No, I couldn't be bothered today. But an eyeliner by Makeup Store, surprise! Eventually Makeup Store closed, their stores closed down. They have stores all over the countries, all over the world actually. But they were slowly getting more and more boring, and I'm guessing eventually people stopped buying stuff because They had less shadows, they stopped having these glittery things, at least not as much as they used to. So eventually when I got in there, sometimes I couldn't find anything I wanted. And the owner, a guy who started this brand for like 25 years ago something, he was a lot in Thailand, and so he was concentrating all his fun stuff in the stores around Thailand, I think, and the Asian countries. And then came the pandemic, and they filed for bankruptcy, I think. So they were bought by the Swedish Lyko. That is a site on the internet. So you can buy their stuff at Lyko, but it's not as fun as it used to be anymore. Yeah, and some mascara. Oldie. And back then I told you I never did an eyeliner because I didn't know how to do a wing, and I still don't. But I do it anyway. And now when I'm getting wrinkly and my skin is really hanging over and the wing looks like a disaster, but I don't care. I do it anyway. Need to stop. Yeah. Inner corner highlight. I think I will use the, let's see, can't get it out. Yeah, the Studio 54 Disco Nights from Makeup Revolution. No, my gosh, Nomad Cosmetics. Looks like this. It's not overly bright and shiny, but it goes with the colors. And I will later on use that on my cheeks as well. And bronzer, I'll just go with my old one from Maybelline. This is from the toy store where I used to work, because we also had a makeup stand from Maybelline. And we have, you know, gifts and some coffee and some tea. You could buy coffee beans, and we, what do you call that? We made them to coffee. I don't know. And so sold it. I guess it wasn't until 2015-16 that I started to do makeup the way I do now. You know, really, I did before, but I'm better now. Let's say it's just, it was the same, but still not the same. I guess you could say I have moved forward. At least according to me. You can think whatever you like. On my cheeks as well. Shiny. Yeah, and a blush. I will just take this one, and Vanilla Orange Truffle from BH Cosmetics, and I will use, I think, that one. I have a lot. Yeah, and I sometimes take a big fluffy brush and just smoosh everything together a little bit. Yeah, and lippy. What lippy to use? What lippy? Makeup store. This one is called Havana. And one last thing. Yeah, a look according to me right now, year 2023. Oh, this is going to be a long one, and I really do hope you enjoy and that you can manage to stay with me to the end, but I completely understand if you don't. Close up. I can go through the colors quickly. So I've used Feast, Sultan, Festive, and Thai, and also a bit under my eye, Ritual, and that's it. I love them. Really great shadows, but then Be Perfect has always, I only have two palettes from them. It's the Love Tahiti and the Antidote, and they are both great. Yeah, so this has been a trip down memory lane, and I hope you liked walking it with me. Until I see you the next time, take care and be careful out there. Bye bye.